built to serve.
Back here on First Things First, and we are hanging with Super Bowl champ Chris Canty.
Hey, Sarah.
Thanks for joining us. It's good to see you again.
You too. What's up,
brother? Good to see you.
Oh, you going to do with the dab? Thought we did the handshake earlier. Now you're going, there we go. We got to be on the same page for more than one reason.
That's right. That's right.
Why are you looking?
We're fraternity brothers. We're fraternity brothers.
All right, I'm going to keep it moving. Canty, it's time to go viral. Marshawn Lynch's football career might have come to an end, but that doesn't mean the five-time Pro Bowler is going to stay out of the limelight. Check out this image from the trailer for Season 3 of HBO's Westworld. That's Marshawn on the right. Canty, think Beast Mode has a future in Hollywood?
Yeah, absolutely. He's been one of the biggest personalities in the NFL in the last decade and a half. So absolutely, Marshawn Lynch as an actor and taking over Hollywood, I'm all for it.
He definitely can be typecast, but I think in those roles, he'll be great.
What's Westwood? Westworld?
Westworld. It's Westworld.
You into that? You watch it?
You know, I checked out after season 1. A little too far-fetched for me. Yeah.
I mean, I hate to say it that way, but there's some robots in there.
Yeah, exactly. I'm all set
and
on
beast mode. Robots in beast mode.
I'm in. All right, time now for some stories to start your morning. Hawks playing host to the Heat last night, and Trae Young balled out. Career-high 50 points. He went 8 of 15 from deep. CB, how impressive was Trae in Atlanta's win?
Incredibly. Did you saw that shot from the logo? We hear players say, oh, he's shooting from the logo. He shot from the logo like it was just a 20-footer. I mean, he was phenomenal. And look, he did it against one of the best defensive teams in the league. This is the Miami Heat. This is Andre Iguodala on him at times. This is Jimmy Butler on him at times. And they could do nothing. He almost made Iguodala fall. They could do nothing with him. He also dropped 8 dimes, and he was phenomenal. Look, Trae Young has the last 15 games. The Hawks have won 7 of 15, so 7 and 8. That's good for them. They beat some good teams. Miami last night, Philadelphia, the Clippers, and he's averaged 34 points and 11 assists in those games. He's 11th in the league in PER. So people think he's putting up empty numbers. No, he's being effective.
No, you're absolutely right. Atlanta's got a nice core of young players. You got him, Cam Reddish, DeAndre Hunter, UVA guy, Kevin Huerter. Like, you've got some pieces. So Trae Young is the centerpiece, obviously, and what he's able to do, especially in clutch time. I mean, going into that fourth quarter with the deficit, he dropped 20 of the Atlanta Hawks' 39 points in that quarter. So it's really impressive to see him kind of come into his own. You got to think he's playing with a lot of confidence coming off of his first All-Star game start. So that was pretty cool to see. But with the Miami Heat, they got a little something to worry about. Losing 5 of their last 6. Yeah. They're hustling backwards. A couple of weeks ago, they were second in the East.
Yep. We'll see. They'll get it back, I think. On to the Sixers hosting the Nets. Joel Embiid finished with 39 points, 16 rebounds. Philly wins it 112-104 in overtime. And after the game, Embiid said he's the, quote, best player in the world. Chris Broussard, how far off is he, if at all?
He's off. He's way off. Now, I could hang with best big man or best center in the world, but part of, what do they say? Part of the greatest ability is availability. He's only played 40 of their 56 games, and you can't have a 0-point game. I hate to keep bringing it up. 0. I can't imagine a Michael Jordan, a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar scoring 0 points in 32 minutes of action. So that right there means you're not the best player in the world. But he's up there.
Yeah, he got to chill out with the best player in the world talk. If you want to have a conversation about him being an all-NBA performer, best big man in the game, okay, the potential for that is there. But with Joel, it's never been a question of talent. He's got the talent. The only question has been his health and his work ethic. They always had this saying in sports, talent sets the floor, character sets the ceiling. With Joel Embiid, it's about making sure that he shows up with that type of energy every single night. He's been too inconsistent in that regard, and I think that's at the heart of the problems with the Philadelphia Sixers and him and Ben Simmons being able to work together.
And never a question in confidence.
You know, I like the attitude. I don't mind him saying it, but just go out and prove it.
On to some bad news for the Nets. Kyrie Irving will undergo season-ending surgery on his right shoulder. The 6-time All-Star played just 20 games in his first year in Brooklyn. So, CB, are you worried about Kyrie's future?
He's going to be 28 in March. he's obviously had this huge injury history. Only 3 times has he played 70 or more games. We've seen him injured in summer league, in college, in the NBA Finals in Game 1. So you have to be a bit concerned. I have no question that when he gets on the floor, he will be dynamic, as he was this year, 27 points a game. But how consistent will he be in terms of availability? Yeah, it is a concern.
Yeah, it's a concern, and also the leadership aspect of things, too, because coming off of last season in Boston, there were a lot of rumblings about what kind of leader he was in the locker room. So I think that this was an opportunity to put some of those questions to bed by playing with a core of guys that made the playoffs last year, but he didn't have that opportunity. And, of course, in the second half, having more time to play with the guys, Spencer Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert, not having a chance to get acclimated with those guys in Kenny Atkinson's system, I think that was a little bit of a missed opportunity. But listen, this year was not about trying to compete for a championship for the Nets. It was about building toward 2020, 2021, when you're going to get Kevin Durant back. Now it's about making sure that Kyrie is healthy as well.
On to some football. The Browns are coming off a disappointing 6-10 season. One of the main reasons was Baker Mayfield's 21 interceptions. That trailed only Jameis Winston for worst in the league. But new Browns offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt is not discouraged, saying Baker's future is bright. So, Canty, are you buying Mayfield still has a bright future?
Yeah, I'm buying that. I think Baker Mayfield still has the opportunity to live up to the expectations of being the #1 overall pick 3 years ago, but it starts with him having the right attitude, and by all accounts, it seems like he's turning the corner in that regard. Watching him do the sit-down with Nick and Jenna down in Miami the week leading up to the Super Bowl, you heard a level of humility and some contrition in terms of things that Baker wishes he would have done better in his second year in the National Football League. So I think that attitude is the way that he needs to approach the offseason, because there are a lot of things that he needs to improve on. And his quarterback's coach, Alex Van Pelt, spoke on those things, talking about having quiet feet, being able to dance in the pocket rather than being erratic. I think he compared it to listening to rock music, how Baker's feet looked in year 2. So I think that's one of the fundamental things that he has to get cleaned up. The technical aspects of playing the position, decision-making. But for me, the biggest thing that Baker needs to improve on is the intangibles. You know, his leadership ability, his ability to be a stabilizing force within the organization. I mean, the Cleveland Browns have had 7 head coaches in the last decade of football. At some point, they're going to need somebody to come in there and help them change the culture, somebody to be steady when everybody else is being erratic. And I think a quarterback is in a prime position within an organization in order to be able to do that. So that's what I'm looking for from Baker Mayfield. Being able to set the agenda for your football team, that is the most important thing you can do as a quarterback. He didn't do that last year, focused on the outside noise, focused on making progressive commercials, whatever it was. But Baker Mayfield has got to get back to the fundamentals of the position, but then also recognizing the position that he's in within the organization and being responsible with that platform.
What Alex Van Pelt said, he said he wants his footwork more like Mozart than Metallica. Okay, so I don't know if he'll ever be Mozart, but he doesn't have to be Metallica. So I'm with Chris on this. I think the future is bright. His rookie season was too impressive to give up after 2 years, especially when you had all the chaos in Cleveland last year. Freddie Kitchens, offensive coordinator, and Kitchens, there was tension, too many people involved in the play calling. So I actually think Baker, I think the maturity is a good sign. I think he will appreciate the stability and the structure that Kevin Stefanski and Van Pelt will bring. And if you look at their history now, Van Pelt with the quarterbacks coach with Aaron Rodgers, and Rodgers has a career year. I get it. It's Aaron Rodgers. I don't know how much Van Pelt had to do with that. But with Stefanski, you're looking at guys like Case Keenum and Kirk Cousins having career-type years under Stefanski. That West Coast offense, he's going to use a lot of the run, so Baker's not going to have to carry everything on his shoulders. And one thing I love that I'm hearing out of Cleveland is play action. Last year, Baker was very good in play action. They didn't use it a lot, which baffled me because you had Nick Chubb. Why in the world would you use a lot more play action?
And you had Kareem Hunt in the second half as well. Yeah.
But when they did use it, the limited time they did, Baker's numbers were much better than when they didn't use it. So my only problem with the Browns next year, because I like the people they've brought in, is the division. I'm just looking at it like Baltimore obviously is not going anywhere, and the Steelers were good last year. So this year with Big Ben back, they're probably going to be better. So they're going to have a tough time making the playoffs. But I do think Baker will show major improvement, and the future is bright.
How much do you think it is mechanics, fundamentals, things on the field, as opposed to the leader? You mentioned the leadership. Part of his bravado felt like made him who he was. How much do you think it's the maturity and the growth and that leadership factor as opposed to what he actually needs to work on fundamentally?
Well, I think it's a combination of all of those things. I don't think it's more one than the other. They walk hand in hand. So he does have to have more attention to detail in terms of what he's doing on the field. Bill Parcells used to say this: I give a guy 3 years to show me what he is. So this is a pivotal season for Baker Mayfield, and I think that he has to approach it with that level of urgency, knowing that he's got a new head coach, his third head coach in as many seasons. That's something that you have to think about. And then also recognizing where this team is at in terms of the collection of talent, because you don't have a lot of opportunities to have this kind of talent on a football team. And so you got to be able to take advantage of that if you're the Cleveland Browns, especially when you have a quarterback on a controllable pay scale. So I think that this is an important year for Baker Mayfield, as well as a couple of other guys in his draft class. Josh Rosen, it's a big year for him down in Miami. We'll see what happens with that. And then also Sam Darnold. But if you look at the other two quarterbacks that were drafted in the first round in 2018, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, you look at where they're at in their career in comparison to Baker Mayfield, it just lets you know the importance of having the structure that you talked about through the organization around a young player that's trying to realize their potential.
Could be a pivotal year, too, for the Patriots. Let's get to them for the last